الصلاة والسلام على الأنبياء والمرسلين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما تعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So it says Kitab al-Tahara. I believe we did this when we got to... Pretty sure we did that. Okay, Bab al-Niyati, we did that as well. Okay, so then he says here. وما ضبب بالفضة إن كان قليلا للحاجة لم يكره وإن كان للزينة كره وإن كان كثيرا للحاجة كره وإن كان للزينة حرم وقيل إن كان في موضع الشرب حرم وإن كان في غيره لم يحرم وقيل لا يحرم بحال. Right, so this is quite useful because when we look at the hadith, we can see the hadith can basically be understood in one of these three ways. Right. So it says you now have a container made out of steel, made out of wood, made out of clay, and you do tadbib. You're going to put pieces of gold or silver on it. So it says here, وَمَا ضُبِّبَ بِالْفِضَّةِ, right? Something with gold, with silver specifically. إِنْ كَانَ قَلِيلًا لِلْحَاجَةِ لَمْ يُكْرَهُ. So this is very important. The mafsada is small, right? The haja or the maslaha is big, right? So this is a system in the Sharia, right? We'll see this again and again. Why is it that the makruh can quite easily become halal, but the haram cannot? It's quite hard for the haram to become halal because the mafsada is less, right? And certain haram things can become halal much easier than other haram things, right? So it is haram to commit zina. It is haram to touch a woman's hand, but they're not the same, are they? So the kind of haja that would allow me to touch a woman's hand is not the same as kind of haja that would allow me to touch her arm. Touch her arm, not the same as touching her stomach. Touching her stomach or committing zina. So in fact, the mafsada of zina is so great that there's no way to make it halal. You couldn't, right? You just couldn't do it. So it doesn't matter. It's like so this is this balance between mafasid and masalih. Okay, it's very important. So in kana qalilan, the mafsada is small. للحاجة, the maslaha is big. لم يكره, it's mubah. وإن كان للزينة, okay, the maslaha is insignificant. كره, right? So it's for zina and it is small. It's makruh, right? So the maslaha, the mafsada was small, but the maslaha was also small. It's makruh. وإن كان كثيرا للحاجة كره. The mafsada was great, and the maslaha was great, makruh. So there's tasawa, right? وإن كان للزينة, right? And so there's now the mafsada is great, and the maslaha is non-existent, حرمة. وقيل إن كان في موضع الشرب حرمة. That you say the use is drinking from it, as long as it's not in the place where you're drinking from, that's fine. وإن كان في غيره لم يحرم. وقيل لا يحرم بحال, it's all fine. ويستحب أن تخمر الآنية فإن وقع في بعضها نجاسة أو اشتبه عليه تحرى. You do ijtihad. Right, so it's recommended to cover them. That's one issue. Next issue is there's two containers. The mouse died in one of these two containers, but now I can't remember which one. تحرى, right? وتوضأ بالطاهر على الأغلب عنده. وقيل إن كان معه ماء يتيقن طهارته لم يتحرم, right? Because one is definitely pure, the other one is not, so why would you do that? وإن اشتبه ذلك على الأعمى ففيه قولان أحدهما يتحرى وهو الصحيح والثاني لا يتحرى, right? So now I can't remember, one of these two pots there was filth in it, but I can't remember now which one. So if I'm blind, meaning my ijtihad is naqis, right? Can I do ijtihad or not? Right? So this is analogous like saying if there's some information that I'm missing, do I not do ijtihad, or how does this work? Right? Right. So if we say right, if so do we say that the mujtahid, if there's some limitations on him, does he still do ijtihad? Like if you told him mujtahid, I'm telling you now, you will never know all the masail in fiqh, and you will never know all the hadiths, and you will never know every single word in Arabic. So your ijtihad is deficient. So does he not do ijtihad now? Or do we say he still has to try his best because he can still do the job? Right? So we look at it two ways. Right? The reliable position is that the a'ma does do ijtihad here. So notice this issue is going to come way later in bay'. In the Shafi school, we're going to say that if you want to buy something that is specific, you have to see it. So therefore, a blind person is not allowed to buy anything. You can't buy this car without seeing it. You can buy a car. You can say, I want a car like this, and sell them. But the blind person cannot buy and sell, because he doesn't know what he's buying. So he has to appoint somebody to buy something for him. والثاني لا يتحرى. Right. ومن اشتبه عليه ماء وبول أراقهما وتيمم. So here we're talking about water and water. Right? We were not talking about water and najasa. So there's water, there's urine that has no smell, no taste, no color. I'm not sure which one is urine and which one is water. You do not do tahari. You don't do ijtihad. It says araqahuma. You pour them away so that you now have a reason to do tayammum. What tayammum? Okay, makes sense, inshallah. And Jawad,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, باب السواك. السواك سنة عند القيام إلى الصلاة وعند كل حال يتغير فيها الفم من أزم, I believe. I'm going to mention it here.
I'm sorry, Sheikh Farid.
Yes.
ومن اشتبه عليه ماء وبول. This is like 50-50?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you don't know which is which. So
okay.
I just moved the two. You turned around and said, where'd you put it? I moved the two and I left. And he's like, oh my God, he just moved it. Where is it? Yeah.
Okay.
So here he says, في كل حال فيه يتغير فيها الفم من أزم. أزم. So he does ضبط of the nas here. He says بأزم بفتح الهمز وإسكان الزاي وهو الإمساك من أزم. Right. I don't know how it's rated to azma. Not sure how it's rated to that word, but so often defects are going to be on the pattern fa'al, right? Not on the pattern fa'lun, right? Marad fath, right? So marad, right? Fa'al, ama, right? Amayun. The reason it says ain with a fatha, mim with a fatha, ya, and then it becomes ama, right? So amiya ya'ma ama, right? مرض يمرض مرض, right? So fa'al is often for states of being. فرح يفرح فرح. وجع وجع يوجع يوجع وجع. Pain, وجع with a fatha, right? And so you imagine if it was some kind of state of like smelly breath or something, that it would be al-azam, something like that. But he's not saying that. He's saying from basically not it says whole imsak, not eating, al-azmi wa ghayrihi, for any reason basically. So it is generally recommended. ويكره للصائم بعد الزوال ويستحب أن يستاك بعود من أراك وأن يستاك بيابس قد ندي بالماء. Right, something that is dry and that has been moistened with water. ندي. الندى is dew. والمستحب أن يستاك عرضا, sideways. وأن يدهن غبا, and to oil oneself, one's skin, and the like, occasionally. غبا. So rib has two meanings. It means occasionally, Um, and it means after. غب المطر, after the rain, right? ويكتحل وترا, before going to sleep. وأن يقلم الظفر. So it is not obligatory in the Shafi school to cut your nails. It is sunnah, right? ويقلم الظفر. وينتف الإبطة, similarly to remove pubic and underarm hair is not obligatory. It's recommended. ويحلق العانة ويقص الشاربة. Right, similarly, someone has a ridiculously long mustache or no beard, and it's makruh in the Shafi school, not haram. Like all of these things, basically, so the way that the Shafis look at the beard is like somebody who's doing something gross. Why would you do that? Right? So then you say, well, like that's disgusting. So why would you do that to yourself? That's like muthla, like you've made yourself look like an idiot. So the Shafis look at it like that. Like imagine if you put toothpaste all over your head, all over your face, or wrote stupid on your cheek with a pen, walk down the street. It's like that. Like what are you doing? Right? So that's how they look at it, right? That's how the analogy. And there'll be scenarios in the past where, for example, a punishment, a ta'zir, will be to shave someone's beard off. So they don't see it as, don't see it in the same way as the Hanafi see it. It's very different. It's not. It's like an embarrassment not to have a beard, basically. And so generally, something that everybody would do anyway is not going to be an obligation, like marriage, right? يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج, right? فليتزوج, the amr is not for wujub. Why? من شأن الناس أن يتناكحوا, right? People like to do that anyway. وإذا حللتم فاصطادوا, right? You all want to go hunting, right? And so go ahead. So it's not an obligation, right? Kulu washrabu. You're not obliged to eat and drink. Everybody wants to do that. So one of the qara'in that tells that the obligation is not for obligation is that you would want to do that. So the way the Shafis, it's like everybody, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, they want to have beards. It's normal. It's weird not to have a beard, right? If you didn't have a beard, you look like a girl. You might shave someone's beard off to embarrass them, right? So, it's not an obligation. It's something you want to do anyway, right? And it'd be offensive to do that. That's how they see it. It's against al-fitra, right? Allahu alam. And so I don't know if there's any, so it's interesting then. So that could be the argument of some people who say it's not a, part of the argument for some people who say that the beard is not recommended today because you say araf taghayyarat, right? Things have changed. Wallahu alam, right? I don't think that's true, and I don't think it's right. But that could be some of the arguments that they're using. They're looking at this is how the Shafis look at it. It's like this is what everybody does, right? It's like saying it'd be makruh to walk down the street with your tie around your head, like your tie's all messed up, or with your tie open, right? So somebody comes up to you, slaps you in the face, right? Rips your shirt open, and then you walk down the street like that. You don't look nice. That's not the urf in many places, right? Maybe California is different, but but like it's like that's not the urf. So imagine you did that to yourself. But like that's offensive, right? Why would you mess your own appearance up? Wallahu a'lam. ويحلق العانة ويقص الشارب ويكره القزع, right, which is to shave totally zero some part of your hair and not the other, as opposed to as opposed to looking cool, right? So remember this discussion. I'm trying to avoid tangents, but I remember when the what's it called, that haircut, when it's like very short and then it changes suddenly, like what's it called, like on the sides it's very very short, and then there's a term for it.
Like a mohawk?
Not like a mohawk, no, where it's just
Like
like,
a fade?
yeah, fade, right? So, usually hair is always faded. It's not the same level, is it? They don't do one, the whole thing, or two, the whole thing, or three. It's not like that, right? So, but basically, this was what, 10 years ago, something like that. This kind of became kind of popular. Is like it's very short. So it's like a one or it's like a half or something like that, and then it gets noticeably longer suddenly, right? And it has a certain way of, and then it could be on the top. It could be much longer. So that became a look, right? So I remember like some people saying this is haram and this and that, or this is qaza'. It's like, number one, it's not qaza', right? So if it's like, so qaza' is makruh, number one, it's not haram. And number two, it's zero, right? So it's shaved, right? So you have areas of the hair that is shaved, right? Totally zeroed, right? Not that it is faded like that, right? And then number two is just an off, right? So, you know, many people, they will kind of like look at things and be like, that's just how it is, right? That's how people dress, And it's like, just because it's new for you, that doesn't make it wrong. Like my granddad was really, really opposed to the Beatles, right? Like the Beatles are like really bad. Um, just because it's different, right? Different generation, like that was like shockingly bad. You can imagine how things have changed, right? I'm sure he would like Eminem. Um, but what's it called? So it's like there's a lot of these things like that's shockingly bad, but it's like it's not shockingly bad, it's just different, you know? And for you, it might be there's certain things that for you that might be culturally, let's say chewing gum, right? So chewing gum in Egypt, is that still rude?
Um, yeah, not really, but they used to be, yes.
Yeah, it used to be, right?
But not anymore.
So
Used
like
to be.
imagine for example there's like a conference of doctors, right? And you meet like, there's some kind of like and he's chewing gum, like I don't know, right? Whereas like 50 years ago, like, dude,
Yeah,
what
it's really
are
bad.
you doing? That's like you're just crazy. Like soup, that doesn't make any sense. It's insane, right? So that there's things that change. So it's not rude in and of itself. It's culturally relative, right? In some cultures that would be rude, in other cultures it wouldn't, right? Even just how like practice the way that you interact with your nurses in Egypt, the way you interact with nurses in America, it's not the same. Some things would be like, dude, you're gonna have a warning for that. Whereas in Egypt, like that's just it's normal. It's not rude. Like they're just very sensitive, the way you spoke to them. Hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Why'd you do this? And then suddenly you've brought into, I don't know, management comes in like, hey, you need to, the way you're communicating is rude. That like many complaints this month about the way you talk to the nurses. Like what? Like it's a different style. Like so, rude can sometimes be relative. So this issue is Sheikh Amjad just like, this is just an off, right? Just because you don't like it, it doesn't make it makruh haram, right?
So
And then
is it qazh? The qazh is like the Hajj, like what we do during the Hajj?
no, because the
Is
Hajj you
that what it
shave
means,
totally off.
or I
But
miss?
this means that it's shaved. Some of it's shaved, and the other is not. So it's
Oh,
zero
okay. Okay.
and one, or zero and three, something like that. So you mentioned mohawk, like yeah, so like shaved
Oh,
totally, and then suddenly there's hair, right? That's
I
mohawk.
see.
And then there's certain things that like oh, even for example the way that women dress or something like that, like oh, only those kind of women would dress like that. It's like well, that's not. I mean, that may have been a certain time, but it's not something unique to certain kind of women. But there are things that are really weird, right? Like you'll see certain things like that's not really off, you know. So I remember seeing again, forgive the tangent. I remember seeing this in Jordan. It was like so weird. It's like the shop that sold clothes, kind of not. It's a kind of it wasn't a mall. It was kind of a fake mall, like a tiny little thing. And it's like it has this like picture of a girl who's like 8, and she's wearing like stockings, and it's like, is this how is this normal? You know, it's like really weird. Like the way they're showing things like or like what's it called fishnet, like it's like how is that normal, you know like so there's certain things like that's clearly has so there's some things that like this is clearly connected to this, right, and other things are not. It's like it's not clearly connected, that this is not unique to al-fasaqa, it's not unique to them at all. So we have to understand that difference. خير. So ويجب الختان, right, مطلقا for the Muslim, new Muslim, male, female, right? That's the Shafi school. So it's باب صفة الوضوء إذا أراد الوضوء نوى رفع الحدث أو الطهارة للصلاة. So الطهارة للصلاة, right? Like طهارة لما يتوقف على الطهارة, right? As opposed to الطهارة للأكل, right? That doesn't count. So you can make wudu before you eat. That's great. But you can't make if you made wudu to eat, that doesn't count because you don't need to make wudu to eat. أو الطهارة لأمر لا يستباح إلا بالطهارة كمس المصحف وغيره. ويستصحب النية ندبا إلى آخر الطهارة ويسمي الله تعالى, right, but you don't do that in a bathroom, ويغسل كفيه ثلاثا فإن كان قد قام من النوم كره أن يغمس كفيه في الإناء قبل أن يغسلهما ثلاثا, right. ثم يتمضمض ويستنشق ثلاثا بجمع بينهما في أحد القولين بغرفة وقيل بثلاث غرفات, right. So either it's 3 for the mouth, 3 for the nose, or 1 for the mouth and nose, 2 for the mouth and nose, second for the mouth and nose, and third for the mouth and nose, right. So a different position there. وقيل بثلاث غرفات, right. So the word غرفة and غرفة, we can use both basically. So إلا من اغترف غرفة بيده إلا من اغترف غرفة بيده. He makes a little غرفة, he makes a little room with his hand, or غرفة, one scoop, right. One's مصدر مرة, غرفة. وقيل بثلاث غرفات أو غرفات ويفصل بينهما في الآخر بغرفتين وقيل بست غرفات, right. So that's, you separate them all. ويبالغ فيهما أي الاستنشاق والمضمضة إلا أي وقت كونه صائما فيرفق ثم يغسل وجهه ثلاثا. So you still put water in your mouth, right? You just don't do مبالغ. ثم يغسل وجهه ثلاثا وهو ما بين منابت شعر الرأس ومنتهى اللحيين والذقن, right. So here, this is when they talk about where is the beard. The beard is that which, the lihya is that which is on the dhaqan, right. So therefore shaving to the sides is not technically removing the lihya. طولا, so lengthwise, ومنتهى اللحيين والذقن طولا ومن الأذن إلى الأذن عرضا فإن كان عليه شعر كثيف لم يلزمه غسل ما تحته, right. But if it's خفيف يجب, right, and it'll happen practically anyway, right. Like my beard is not really thick at all, and on the sides, like, water will go in anyway, so they can see it and could see the skin, and the water will go there anyway without even putting any effort. ويستحب أن يخلل الشعور إلا الحاجبة والشاربة والعنفة والعذار فإنه يجب غسل ما تحتها وإن كثف الشعر عليها, right. So for the mustache, the area underneath your under your lip, the idhar, which is the hair next to your ear, you have to make sure the water gets inside the skin there. وإن كثف, even if it is thick. وفيما نزل من اللحية عن الذقن قولان. So you have the hair that extends. So basically we know that the hair, the thick hair on your face, stands in the stead of the face itself. So does that mean, when you're saying it stands in its stead, does that mean then it extends? So the hair that is within the limits of your face, that now extends down out of your face, and it extends as a beard, right? Do you have to wash that or not? قولان. أحدهما يجب إفاضة الماء على ظاهره والثاني لا يجب, right? And that the first position is correct. ثم يغسل يديه ثلاثا ويجب إدخال المرفقين في الغسل, right. فإن كان أقطع من فوق المرفق استحب له أن يمس الموضع ماء, right. So the cut is from above the limit. The limit of washing is the mirfaq. So you are cut from above that. It's recommended that the end that is above that limit is recommended to wash that, right. Otherwise you're obliged to. So if it's below, then you're obliged to. So the cut is from the middle of the lower arm, right. So now they're going to wash whatever they can, and the area that was once inside their arm, right? That has to be washed. May Allah protect us all. Right, so good exercise. Do we all have two arms? Anybody here who's missing an arm?
No,
Alhamdulillah. All right, so just like simple. When anything goes wrong in your life, just remember you have two arms. Among many blessings, like among 50,000 blessings, right? Dr. Sameh, you see
that's
people who are
right.
sick all the time, like among 50,000 brilliant problems, like how many arms do you have? Two. Okay, close. Right. So if you didn't have any arms and you weren't the problem that you have right now, and then I gave you two arms, you wouldn't care about the problem that you're in. You wouldn't care about you just lost your job, would you? That you're going through a divorce, you wouldn't really care. That I don't know that the people being racist towards you, or there's no the future isn't very predictable. Like you wouldn't care. Like if I just said you had no arms and I suddenly gave you arms, you're like Alhamdulillah, right? So may Allah forgive us all, right? We have a serious, spiritual and problem that yesterday, Smallah, my friend said, he's just at a cafe and this guy walks in and he has no arms. He's then so like he took his glasses off with his feet. Subhanallah. Right? So anyway, may Allah protect us.
SubhanAllah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a lot of things, but whenever I like sit and just reflect on the organs that we have and how it functions normally,
Yeah.
and whenever thank him for that.
Yeah. One of my friends, or elders, he said, if you knew what it's like to not be able to urinate, you would every single time you went to the bathroom, you would do sujood shukr. Like the pain of
Yeah.
not the urine doesn't come out, the pain involved and the difficulty of these things, like very, very hard. SubhanAllah. Anyway, so may Allah forgive us and give us insight, subhanAllah. فإن كان أقطع من فوق المرفق استحب له أن يمس الموضع ماء ثم يمسح رأسه, i.e. the edge. Right? Oh, sorry, this is something else. رأس, he doesn't mean the cut, he's talking about the head now. It says ثم يمسح رأسه فيبدأ بمقدم رأسه ثم يذهب باليدين, passes his hands back إلى قفاه ثم يردهما إلى المكان الذي بدأ منه ويفعل ذلك ثلاثا ثم يمسح أذنيه ظاهرهما وباطنهما بماء جديد ثلاثا ويأخذ, so this is the اختيار of Muhammad Nasr Marwazi, is that you just wipe once. That's his ikhtiyar. That's the other madhahib. The Shafi school is we wipe the head 3 times and the ears 3 times, etc. بماء جديد ثلاثا ويأخذ لصماخيه, I believe with a kasra here, صماخيه, بكسر الصاد, yeah. So صماخيه. Where do we get to? So opening of the ear canal, the opening of the outward part that you can see. صماخيه ماء جديدا ثم يغسل رجليه ثلاثا ويلزمه إدخال الكعبين في الغسل وهما العظمان الناتئان عند مفصل, and I don't think it's مفصل, it's مفصل, right? So we say بفتح الميم مفصل, so we say مفصل, right? But the word is مفصل, right? So مفصل would be the tool of separating, right? Mif'al, tool. Mafsil, the place of separation, right? That's why it's called the joint, the place of separation. Mafsil, right? Okay. عند مفصل الساق والقدم ويخلل بين أصابعه, أي the toes, the fingers of your foot. ويستحب إذا فرغ من وضوء أن يقول أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Again, not in a bathroom. وألا ينفض يديه, you don't shake off the water. ولا ينشف نفسه أعضاءه, you don't dry unless there's some maslaha, right? So this is khilaf al-awla. It's sunnah not to do it, not makruh, but sunnah to do it, not unless you have some other reason, right? So for example, where I live, where my house, there's right outside the bathroom or the bathroom downstairs. It's all there's no carpet, right? And people come and go. So it's quite easy. I come out dripping water everywhere. Someone's going to slip up. Like, little kids running around like, oh, it's like, and they like, slip up and say, haha, I just dislocated my shoulder, but it's okay, daddy, you did the sunnah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not, so avoiding harm is more important than achieving benefit, right? Or you're dripping all over your computer or all over your desk doing the sunnah. It's not like that, right? So yes, that is default, right? As opposed to I just make wudu and then walk outside and I'm in a hot Malaysia. Yeah, fine. You're gonna dry in 3 seconds, not a problem, right? So when ينشف ألا so it's recommended not to do that أعضاءه وألا يستعين في وضوئه بأحد وإن استعان جاز, right? It's not, so the issue is decadence, the issue of decadence, like you're being decadent. The way you're praying is not it. So the wudu and the prayer has a humility to it. خير. And it says باب فرض الوضوء وسننه. فرض الوضوء 6 النية عند غسل الوجه وغسل الوجه وغسل اليدين ومسح القليل من الرأس وغسل الرجلين والترتيب على ما ذكرناه وأضاف إليه في القديم التتابع فجعله سابعا, right? So this is right. So how is this practical when you're wearing khufs? So you're wearing khufs and the time expires for your khufs, or for whatever reason you had to take them off. It's uncomfortable. So you have wudu and you take your khufs off. Okay, so now if we follow the qadim, you don't have wudu anymore because there was no tatabu'. There was no muwala. There's no continuity between washing your face, arms, and wiping your head and your feet. On the jadid, you can just go and wash your feet. Right? So the default is it would be makruh to follow to not take that consideration. I believe the Hanbalis and Malikis, they have the concept of tatabu' as well. Right? But if there's a maslahah, why not follow the jadid? وسننه عشرة التسمية وغسل الكفين والمضمضة والمضمضة والاستنشاق ومسح جميع الرأس, right? So here we say assuming you don't have a hat on or a turban, right? So if you had a turban on, it's anything that's difficult to take off, we would say it is not recommended to do that. The Prophet didn't do that. And even if the Malikis say you have to do the whole head and you have to take off your turban, we would say no. That's unconstitutional. There's a clear Sahih hadith that Prophet had a turban on, just pushed it back, right? So maybe he did a quarter of his head, as the Hanafi say. Maybe he did a hand span of his the area of a hand of his head, as the Hanafi say. Maybe he wiped on the rest of his turban, as the Maliki Hanbalis. But that particular mas'ala, we would say that's unconstitutional, right? There are certain masail in the Shafi school where the Shafis are not pluralistic in that they see that the mukhalif is unconstitutional. I'm speaking metaphorically here, right? Like fundamentally off, like your process is fundamentally off. ومسح الأذنين وتخليل اللحية الكثة, right? So it is sunnah to do that. So the debate basically there is, does the beard count as your face? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us wash your face. Does the beard count as your face? And if it does, if it doesn't, how does it work, right? وتخليل أصابع الرجلين, right, to put your fingers between your toes. والابتداء باليمنى والطهارة ثلاثا وثلاثا, even wiping the head and even wiping the ears is ثلاثا ثلاثا. باب المسح على الخفين. ويجوز المسح على الخفين في الوضوء للمسافر 3 أيام ولياليهن وللمقيم يوما وليلة. وابتداء مدة من حين يحدث بعد لبس الخف. Right, so the time starts as soon as you break wudu. فإن مسح في الحضر ثم سافر أو مسح في السفر ثم أقام أتم مسح مقيما. So the time starts when you break wudu. The time is defined in depending on which state you're in when you wipe. So you made wudu at home and you broke wudu at home and you made wudu at home and you wiped and then you became musafir. You can only wipe for 24 hours. as opposed to you broke your wudu at home. And then you made a 90% wudu at home, but you didn't wipe your feet. So then you got into your car and you drove out, and now you're out of the city now. You're no longer in the area that you call home. And then you wiped on your feet. Now you can wipe for 72 hours. So the time started when you broke your wudu, but it was defined by the state that you were in when you wiped. Okay? من حين يحدث. You can say من حين or من حين. You can make it mabni. So the حين is mudaf to the jumla. You can make it من حين, make it from because it's majrur because of the min, or من حين. You do both. So here it says لبس الخف بكسر الباء. أو عفوا. Where is it? That's لبس يلبس. That's something else though. Where is it? But this is mudaf. This is لبس الخف. So من حين يحدث بعد أن لبس, perhaps. If there was an an there. Or بعد ما لبس. But here it says بعد لبس الخف. Right? I'm not sure what's going on there. So maybe something missing. فإن مسح أوكي ثم أقام أتم مسح مقيم وإن شك في وقت المسح أو في انقضاء مدة المسح بنى الأمر على ما يوجب الغسل. وإن شك في وقت المسح. So I'm not sure. When did I start wiping? Is it 24 hours or not? Oh, did I when did I wipe? Did I wipe as a traveler or not? Right? Or أو في انقضاء مدة المسح. Or when did it when how long do I have? بنى الأمر على ما يوجب الغسل. I believe what he's trying to say is the mas'ala of whether or not did I or did I not have to make ghusl, and when did I make ghusl. So there's that mas'ala, right? In you're not sure did you have to make ghusl or not. That's number one. Number two, when you don't know, you now know that you have to make ghusl, but you don't know when that happened. So what do you do? What's the assumption? So now you remember that you have to make ghusl. 2 to 3 days ago, you now realize you had to make ghusl. You had forgotten, but now you know. Yaqinan. It could have been 3 days ago, it could have been 2 days ago. What do you assume?
I have to repeat the prayer.
3 days ago.
So it could have been 3 days ago that you had to make ghusl, or could have been 2 days ago.
3 days.
So the principle al-yaqeen la yazulu bil-shak. So is it possible that it was 1 day ago? There's definitely definitely 2 or 3 days ago. So what is the qadr and mushtarak and mutayaqqan? What is the time period that is agreed upon? That is definitely the case.
2 days.
2 days.
2 days.
So al-yaqeen la yazul bil-shak is 2 days. So one of the secondary applications of the principle al-yaqeen la yazul bil-shak is ينسب الأحداث وينسب تنسب الحادثة إلى أقرب الوقت. Right? An event is always ascribed to the closest possible time. Right? Zayd could have died a week ago and could have died yesterday. So therefore he died yesterday. Right? So everything's like that. You could have reached puberty at this age or that age, you don't know, latest possible time. Right? The najasa could have been on you before the prayer or after the prayer. Therefore it's after the prayer. Right? I believe that's what he was referring to. Jawad, does anybody have is anybody using the sharh here from Khatir al-Shirbini?
No, I don't have it pulled up.
Okay, let me just give me a second. I'll open it up. So he says, okay, so he says here وإن شك المسافر في وقت المسح هل ابتدأ المسح so you don't know, did you wipe at home or on a travel? أو شك في انقضاء مدة المسح بنى الأمر على ما يوجب الغسل لأنه الأصل ولا مسح. Not يوجب الغسل. I think he's like, I thought he was saying he was referring back to the مسألة of غسل. بنى الأمر على ما يوجب الغسل لأنه الأصل. What is the default? Right? So this is a rukhsa here. So now we have something else. We're dealing with a rukhsa. So why? لأنه رخصة بشروط منها مدة فإذا شك فيها رجع الأصل. Yeah. So this is a general principle, is that whenever you have a doubt about a rukhsa, you go to the asl. Right? So it's slightly different. The way we deal with the rukhsa is slightly different. Because yeah, that's what it is. بنى الأمر على ما يوجب الغسل. So just basically go to the default, which is whatever situation. So if you can imagine, normally we would say the following. So I'm not sure, did I make wudu at was it 8:40, was it 8:45 or was it 8:46 yesterday? So you're not sure. So normally we would say, well, it's 8:46, so therefore you can still wipe. But you can't do that because it's a rukhsa, and we're going to go to the so you basically, so rukhsas, you can't take a rukhsa with sin and you can't take a rukhsa with doubt. So it's a slightly different masala, right? Does that make sense? So if we apply the principle that we're going to ascribe things to the last possible time, we say go ahead, you can still wipe because the default is that it was the later time. But we don't say that. Why? Because it's a rukhsa, right? لأنه رخصة بشروط منها المدة فإذا شك فيها رجع الأصل وهو الغسل. So similarly, so you don't know, did you wipe at home or did you wipe with a traveler? Well, whichever would dictate to, basically, if you doubt, you wash, basically. That's what he's trying to say, because that's the default. Okay. Great. Sorry, I'm like, I thought he was referring back to the word ghusl, same issue of ghusl. I don't know, that made sense. Okay, great. Okay. So then he says, ولا يجوز المسح إلا أن يلبس الخف على طهارة كاملة, right? So therefore you can't, for example, make a 95% wudu, wash one foot, put the khufs on, and then wash the other foot, put the khufs on. You can't do that. ولا يجوز إلا على خف ساتر للقدمين يمكن تتابع المشي عليه, right? So that this excludes normal socks, right? The normal thin socks that you couldn't usually walk around outside for a long time. وفي المسح على الجرموقين قولان أحدهما يجوز والثاني لا يجوز, right? So the issue here is what? So these are like these are like light socks with a firm
Overshoes.
yeah. وهو الأصل كالخوف وفيه وسع. So here it says here جرموق بالضم الجيم فارسي معرب. It's a Persian word. right? Like Jawrab aslan. Jawrab is Farsi as well. It's a very interesting word. So it's gur pa, the grave of the foot. It comes into Arabic as Jawrab, and then it goes back from Arabic into Farsi. So they say Jarab in Farsi today, but the word is actually proper, pa as in same Indo-European word for like foot, right? Gur pa, like pied in French, right? There's pied, ped, right? The same kind of Indo-European word. Okay, so anyway, so here the Jordan work as well. So it says في الأصل وهو في الأصل شيء كالخف وفيه وسع يلبس فوق الخف للبرد, something put on top of it. So yeah, what they mean by it is khufs on top of khufs. That's what we mean, right? So how does that work? So how does khufs on top of khufs work? So let's say, what's a practical thing for us? You are wearing khufs that are thin, right? They fulfill the conditions of khufs, okay? And on top of those khufs, you're wearing boots. So you are hiking. Your hiking boots, right? Under your hiking boots, you're wearing thick socks that fulfill the conditions of khufs. So now, can you wipe on your hiking boots? The answer is no. That's what we're talking about. So khufs on top of khufs, right? So can I wipe on shoes? Can I wipe on shoes if I have socks underneath? So say the socks underneath, do they fulfill the conditions of khufs? No. Okay, great. Your shoes themselves, do they fulfill the conditions of khufs? No. Okay, then nothing's going to help there, right? But the issue is if the lower level fulfills the conditions of khufs, you cannot wipe out on the upper level, right? Does that make sense? That's what we're talking about. So he's using this word. That's what they would use, is basically something warmer, right? And that doesn't count. وفي المسح على الجرموقين قولان أحدهما يجوز والثاني لا يجوز, and the second is correct. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, والسنة أن يمسح أعلى الخف وأسفله. So the minimum is to wipe some part of the top half, top section. فيضع يده اليمنى على موضع الأصابع واليسرى تحت عقبه. So your right hand is on the top of your foot, next to the toes, and your left hand is next to your aqib, your heel, right? ثم يمر اليمنى إلى ساقه. So the right is now going to go from the toes towards your shin. واليسرى من موضع إلى موضع الأصابع is going to go underneath from your heel, from the bottom of your foot all the way towards your toes. فإن اقتصر على مسح القليل من أعلاه أجزأه وإن اقتصر على ذلك من أسفله لم يجزئه على ظاهر المذهب. Right? You can't just wipe any of your foot, it has to be the top itself. وإن ظهرت الرجل أو انتقضت مدة المسح وهو على طهارة غسل القدمين في أصح القولين واستأنف الوضوء في الآخر. So here it says أصح القولين. What we're saying is جديد القديم. So it's a bit confusing because what do you mean the correct position? Do you mean that Imam Shafi has a new position and he rejected the old position? Do you mean Imam Shafi has two positions? Do you mean the ashab have two positions? Right? So it's not very clear what's happening here, right? But the reality is al-jadid, right? So the jadid is that in wudu you do not have to have continuity. Accordingly, given that you've now broken up your wudu and now you just have to wash your feet, you can just wash your feet. That's the jadid, right? The qadim is now you've got to re-wash every limb because continuity is necessary. باب ما ينقض الوضوء وهو أربعة أحدها الخارج أي خروج الخارج من السبيلين نادرا كان أو معتادا فإن انسد المخرج المعتاد وانفتح مخرج دون المعدة انتقد الوضوء بالخارج منه. Okay, so number one, your normal private parts are blocked. Nothing comes out of them. Number two, something comes out from beneath your stomach, right? دون المعدة, right? So here, there's just put a little footnote. Where exactly is that then? We're not going to go into that now, but it's that's quite actually important. So, but the point is, the asl is no longer functioning. So now there's a fara' which is right, which counts, which is coming from beneath the stomach. دون المعدة انتقد الوضوء بالخارج منه. وإن انفتح فوق المعدة ففيه قولان. Right? So now what about that? It's blocked, and then filth is coming out from somewhere else, from above that area. فيه قولان. Right? The correct position is that doesn't count. وإن لم ينسد المعتاد لم ينتقد الوضوء بالخارج من فوق معدة وما تحتها وفيما تحتها وجهان. Right? So basically you're saying there's a whole debate here. Right? There's two positions. So what we agree on is your private parts, nothing comes out of your private parts, and najasa comes out from beneath your stomach. Yes. Okay. What if it comes up from above your stomach? Two positions. What if najasa comes out? What if najasa comes out your private parts, and now this is beneath your stomach, right? So it says, وإن لم ينسد المعتاد لم ينتقل الوضوء بالخارج من فوق معدن وفيما تحتها وجهان. Right. So do we look at the fara' and the asl? Right. How does that work? But what we agree on is your private parts are working and you vomited, for example. So does that break your wudu? No. So this is where it all comes from. We know that vomiting doesn't break wudu. Okay, where does vomit come? It comes up. Okay, so what about something down? Right? So it's got to be down. Okay, but is that on the condition that the private parts are working or not? Right? So your private parts are not working, and something comes from an area like that. And again, as I mentioned, the dabt of this area specifically, we can look at another time. فيه وجهان والثاني زوال العقل إلا النوم قاعدا مفضيا بمحل الحدث, you're behind, إلى الأرض. Right. So usually they don't use this phrase. It doesn't say mufdiyan. Go ahead. You had a question.
So the colostomy and the bladder catheter, is that, I think this is if it's عادة because of an illness, it's okay, right? The colostomy bag, if somebody doesn't have any,
Yeah.
he's not.
And that's low down, and also so with bladder, yeah. So the issue is najasa. So but the bladder, so that this person should be da'im al-hadath, basically. The wudu is always
Yes.
wudu is always being broken, yeah.
Yeah.
So the wudu is always being broken, and they're gonna within reason they have to wash it. So obviously it's like how you wash it is quite difficult, right? So I don't know exactly how, to what extent. I know that the bag can be taken out, but what, how exactly the area around it can be washed. Like you can't do that with water, can you? That'd be quite dangerous.
No, it's very difficult, and sometimes it's not practical to take
It's not practical.
catheters every time.
It's not safe at all, right? Like getting. So if anything, you're going to be
Yeah.
certain things in that area, but it's not safe. So anyway, so basically, it's going to be excused. And then, but then they're gonna do the wudu of da'im al-hadath, and so they're gonna go and so they clean themselves as best and as safely as they can within the limits that they can do, and then immediately they go and make wudu and immediately they pray. Right. So according to Ibn Mundhir, which is really going back to the Malikis, he says the nadir la yanqud wudu. So this is nadir. So having an issue like that doesn't break your wudu. So a woman who has excessive bleeding, someone who is incontinent is considered nadir. So khalas, it doesn't break your wudu. They don't have to do anything. Obviously, have to remove the filth. So that's something else. But let's say, for example, a practical thing. So in the Shafi school, then somebody who has gas always coming out, right? The gas always coming out. Just then they considered, then they have to go and make wudu. They don't have to wash anything because no najasa there, but they have to go and make wudu and then immediately pray. According to Ibn Mundhir, they don't have to do that because it just doesn't count. It's just ignored. Yeah. Okay. والثاني زوال. So this phrase anyway just is different. مفضيا أفضى, to make something touch. بمحل الحدث, meaning his private parts, إلى الأرض. That's a phrase that I usually use. So the point that's an exception, right? And so zawal al-aql, totally gone, as opposed to seriously affected. So I remember someone asking this question, like, isn't caffeine like, isn't that iskar? Like, isn't that like, because it affects your mind? So when we say affecting your mind, we mean very significantly, right? So when you say like, when you say the wudu is broken, somebody who is tipsy, their wudu is not broken, right? So you could have somebody who is drunk, right? He's drunk. We would call him drunk, but you ask him, what's your name? And he says, Mo. No, what's your actual name? Muhammad, Habibi. And he says, yeah, I know. And he's crying. He's like, I know I'm drunk, bro. I know I'm drunk. I shouldn't be drunk. Like he's acting not very logically. But you say, where do you live? He tells you his address. He says, can you drive? He says, yeah, I can drive. He gets into his car and you see that his is actually dangerous, right? So he could be stopped for drink driving, but he knows where his home is, right? He knows where he lives. He knows where his car keys is. His reaction is slow. His speech is slurred. So there's a clear effect on his mind, but he's still there, right? Similarly, someone, if I had 10 Red Bulls, right? I think you might have, I don't know what might happen to you, but but the point is, yeah, so the person is really like edgy, too much caffeine, too much, like, he's really edgy and he's not like, he's very kind of off, but like you ask him, as opposed to somebody, zawal aql is, you can't talk to this person, right? Zala aqluhu, right? And that's what we should mean by breaking wudu, right? And then the same question. So, this person's now drunk and he's like, oh, it's haram to pray when you're drunk. So, well, it's wajib to pray. It's like what I'm saying, like it's, you have to pray. So and you might be praying in a funny way, or you notice it's different, or I don't know. But he was drunk and now it's like, well, make tawbah and you got to pray. But he says, I'm still drunk. Like you're drunk in your urf, but in our urf, you're still there. Right? If he's gone, he's gone. Khalas, but otherwise, may Allah protect us. And here, I'm going to pause the recording. Okay, I'm recording. So it makes sense, inshallah. So Zawal Aqli, we spoke about that. Okay. والثالث أن يقع شيء من بشرته على بشرة امرأة أجنبية فإن وقع على بشرة ذات رحم محرم ففيه قولان وفي الملموس قولان. Right? So the first issue then is, when you say touching women, do you mean touching a woman whom you may possibly have lust for, or do you mean just women because it means woman? Like, so what, touching your mother, touching your daughter, right? So the school is that the illah is madhinna to shahwa, the possibility of shahwa. So it's not normal to have lust for your mother, for your sister, for your daughter, right? It's not normal. So even if you did, it wouldn't break your wudu, right? Okay, so even if you did, it wouldn't break your wudu. ففيه so ذات رحم محرم محرم عفوا. ففيه قولان, there's two positions there. The relied upon position does not apply, right, to touching touching a woman, someone who's mahram. وفي الملموس قولان, right? One position is, so it says أو لمستم النساء or لامستم النساء. Okay, what about is either what about if being touched, right? So here there's two positions, and here the position is strong actually, right? The other position is very weak. right? That's like cold shad, almost like that touching your mum breaks your wudu is like almost like a negligible position in the school. But the malmus, that's a strong position, right? Royani and other people have adopted that, right? That the malmus is not wudu. So you were on the airplane and the lady touched you, right? So the relied upon position, you have to make wudu. The other position, which is strong, which is either, I'm pretty sure it's khilaf al-adhar, meaning Imam Shafi has two positions, and the stronger position is being touched breaks your wudu, and the second one is not. So you're on Hajj, you're on Umrah, 100%. Should follow that position because you're going to harm other people by making wudu like that. You know, your wife just touched you on your way out, something like that. You want to follow that position? It's strong. It's a strong position. Is it the strongest position? No, it's not. But it is a strong position. The al-malmus, right? His or wudu or her wudu is not broken aslan. There's also a position as well that's weak, which is very weak, which is that the woman is always considered malmus. Because awla mastam nisa, if you touch woman, so that she's always considered malmus. So she's always considered malmus, she's always considered touched. And then if we follow the position that the touched doesn't break the wudu, then basically a woman would never break a wudu through touch at all. Right? But that's a weak, very weak position. So you have to understand in any madhab, there's difference of agreement. And in a madhab, there are strong positions and weak positions. Negligible positions, like positions that should be ignored, and positions that are not to be ignored. Right? So generally in the Shafi'i school, we have a bit more of a kind of clear system of positions that are weak and negligible and weak and useful, right? Whereas in the other schools, they don't, you know, like I've seen that for Malikis and for Hanafis, it's kind of like if it's winner gets all basically. If it's the relied upon position, if it's the muftabihi, if it's the mashhur, it counts. If it's not the mashhur, if it's not the muftabihi, it does not count, right? Even if it has strength, which is a bit interesting. Like with the Shafi'is, are not like that. And I've noticed the same thing with Hanbali. The Hanbalis that I've spoken to anyway, they have the same kind of idea that the relied upon position is X. Don't change the relied upon position. But this position exists and that position exists. There's many positions in the Hanbali school.
Is it the reason why the Shafi'i is unique because the Imam himself has two positions sometimes?
No, Imam Malik has the same thing.
Okay.
Imam Malik will have two positions as well. Okay. والرابع مسح فرج الآدمي بباطن الكف. That's it. وإذا تيقن الطهارة وشك في الحدث بنى على يقين الطهارة. Easy. وإن تيقن الحدث وشك في الطهارة بنى على يقين حدث. Easy. وإن تيقن الطهارة والحدث والشك في السابق منها نظر. فإن كان قبلهما نظر فيما كان قبلهما. فإن كان حدثا فهو متطهر. وإن كان طهارة فهو محدث. Okay? So I woke up in the morning. When I woke up in the morning, did I have wudu or not?
You don't have wudu.
I don't have wudu. After that, I went to the bathroom, yaqinan, and I made wudu, yaqinan. But I don't know which happened first. I either went to the bathroom, then made wudu, or made wudu and then went to the bathroom. I can't remember. So what state am I in now? So there was hadath, tahara, hadath, or hadath, hadath, tahara.
حدث طهارة
حدث.
Hadith.
Right? Let's do it like so pure. It could eat. When I woke up, I was impure, right?
Yeah.
It's either pure. This is one. It's either happened. It was impure, then pure, then impure, right?
Yeah.
Or impure, then impure, then pure. One of these two, we don't know, right? I'm gonna remove this one here. Not sure what happens. So the principle he says is I know this happened, and I know this happened. I know this happened, I know this happened, but I don't know which came first. I don't know which of these two possibilities is correct. So you say what we do is you ignore these. Okay, you ignore this, and then you do the opposite. What's the sign for opposite, Muhammad Hashad? There's a sign for opposite in maths, and what is? Anyway, you do the opposite of this.
It's -1 in Russian.
-1 in Russian?
No, in Russian, like 2 power -1. Like you put
Oh, to the
-1
power of -1.
superscript.
Sorry, I was like, wow, you speak Russian.
Superscript like -1.
Yeah, that makes it opposite, right? The opposite of something to the -1. So basically, I woke up in the morning, then I made wudu, then I broke my wudu. Or I woke up in the morning, then I broke my wudu again, and then I made wudu. I don't know which one. So I go, basically, there's a yaqeen of these two things. So I go to the previous one, which is this. So I go to the opposite of this. That means I'm now pure. Okay. What's the logic behind that? Right? 1 second. Is at the end of the day, there was an impurity, right? There was impurity. And it was either followed by purity and then impurity, or, oops, sorry, my writing's really bad. Followed by impurity, or followed by impurity, followed by purity. Okay? So if we look at the system, this, right, if it was B, I'm gonna call this B, I'm gonna call this A. Right? If it was B, this has definitely come after this, yaqinan. So the question is, right? And this has definitely come after this. Okay? So the question is, did this follow it or not? That's the question. So that's why we do the opposite of the previous one. Because I know that the purity definitely came after the first impurity. So that first impurity has definitely been removed. Right? The issue is the extra possibility, did the impurity come after or not? Okay? So anyway, and so interestingly, is this argument like obvious? Or is it kind of like yeah, I mean, is it, or is it super convincing?
No.
It's not super convincing, is it? It's not obvious, nor is it super convincing. So here's an important thing, right? This happens in statistics, or happens in science, things like that, right? Like, or in evolution, right? There is one what's it called? One variation in one breed, or one type of bacteria, one type of or one type of uh, what's the word? There's bacteria and what's the other one?
Virus?
Virus. Okay, there's one virus we has a 0.0001 chance, better chance of surviving, right? When you keep rolling the dice, it'll eventually win, right? And eventually take over.
Yeah.
So the same thing with aqwal. What you'll find is you look at this qawl in the madhab or in the, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, there's some weight to it, I guess. But what you'll find then is when you now keep rolling the dice. So you have now the next person comes along, say Imam Shafi or somebody before him posits something like this. Somebody comes on, looks at it, and says, yeah, I guess, I mean, makes sense. Somebody else disagrees, but then somebody agrees. So if one is minorly more stronger than the other, eventually it will become the authority. So you will see this happening many times. And then what will happen is you'll be like, okay, I guess that's our school, but whatever. And then you find, oh, the Hanbalis agree with us. And like, huh, really? Like, let's say our proof in our school is like one weak hadith. It's like, how is that the proof? And then you find the Hanbalis say the same thing. And it's like, that's interesting. Right? Or, so you'll find lots of these scenarios where the argument is not very strong at all. It's like, well, I mean, I guess that's one way you could look at it. And then over time, that becomes the dominant position in our school or across the other schools, right? It's important to understand that. So an argument doesn't have to be super strong. It just has to be stronger than another one, right? Just like a medical approach. Medical approach don't have to be perfect. They just have to be better than other ones, right? You see one, like, how do we deal with this? Let me just pause this thing right now. Not sure when I stopped or continue. Anyway, right. Okay, so where do we get to here? and by the same token as well, talking about weak proofs, right? There's a very important quote from Abdul Haq al-Ishbili, right, from Seville in Spain. He has a book. It's either in his Ahkam al-Sughra or his Ahkam al-Wusta, one of the two. He has 3 books or 4 books on Hadith al-Halal Haram. One of them is, and so there's one called al-Sughra and one called al-Wusta. So he begins and he says, some people might look at the hadiths that I mentioned or ask the question, are these all sahih? Right? And so, and then so he says, yeah, in general, right? But are some of these hadiths arguably not sahih? And are some of these hadiths arguably weak? He says, yeah. Okay, well, can you just give me the hadiths that are all definitely sahih? He said, if we were to do that, meaning you're going to ignore every single hadith that is arguably, you could critique it from one point of view or another, then that we wouldn't have much left to play with, would we? Right? So it's very normal that you're going to have a hadith or a proof or this or that you could critique it. So if you're looking for something that is like just perfect, like the perfect dalil, you're it's not really, you're not really going to find anything. Like, I want a hadith that's like mutawatir. I want a mutawatir hadith that is crystal clear on this topic. You don't really find hadith like that. It's not that common, right? So it's very easy to. So the point is, somebody, there's ibtal al-dalil, which is showing you that this dalil is not a dalil, and there's izhar al-ishkal, right? إظهار الإشكال لا يعني الإبطال. You know what I'm saying? So, there's a problem with this dalil. Yeah, I know. There's probably more problems with the dalil. But that doesn't mean that's not ibtal, right? Ibtal is, this is not a dalil. There's no dalil for this. This is wrong. Versus, there's issues here, right? So again, I go and look at medical practice. There's problems with everything you're doing there, right? I mean, you're not a machine, are you? You're a human being. So the fact that I have a human doctor is problematic, right? And if it was a machine, it's also problematic, right? So like, what do you want then? To go somewhere else. If you want a perfect medical solution, go somewhere else. There isn't a perfect medical solution, right? You sign this contract, right? You're going to go into surgery. You might die, right? It can be even a standard surgery. You can die. People, you reacted to something, whatever. You didn't know you were allergic to this thing. I don't know. Happens. Things happen.
Every medicine has side effects.
Yeah.
I was told, like, if you look at the side effects of the medicine, then you will never use any medical
Exactly.
any medical.
That's not being reasonable, though, right? It's not being reasonable, right? So you have this kind of, so what does the doctor do? The doctor doesn't mention things to make you feel comfortable, makes you feel like, this is easy, inshallah, it's no problem. Your son's going to be fine. Standard procedure 1, 2, 3, 5. But sign this. You still sign the contract that he could die, right? If you go under, when you go, under the knife, things can happen. That's just the nature of things, right? Nature of ijtihad is that we don't know the answer. Simple as that. Okay, khair. We did that. So bismillah. Okay, let's stop the recording here then.